And we're live. Welcome, everybody, here to the Lakers Lowdown Podcast. I'm Anthony Irwin, Lakers insider for Lakers Daily. And today on the show, we're going to be talking about the Olympics. We're going to be talking about D'Angelo Russell, who I have a bit of a take on, that I'm sure everybody is just absolutely, one, thrilled to potentially hear, and two, will definitely agree with. Did you hear that in my voice? I was like, this, nope, not you. It's a Freudian slip. I know this is going to be a controversial take, and we will get to it here in a little bit. And then after I talk about those two things, it's a Sunday. It's a Sunday evening. It was a lovely weekend here in the Irwin household. We we had a nice, calm, quiet weekend, and we are wrapping up, or I'm going to wrap up that weekend by talking to you kind folks. And by that, I mean, we are going to be answering your guys' questions. So let's go ahead and dive on in to an incredible Olympics from start to finish, and specifically a really, really fun Olympics to watch if you were a Lakers fan. I do got to say, and I am not in any way affiliated with NBC. I am not in any way affiliated with Peacock or anything like that. I get nothing from saying this. It is just complete honesty. But I thought Peacock pulled off the greatest streaming event in the history of media, frankly. When you consider everything that needs to be done in an Olympic forum, right, where you have all of these events running simultaneously. They're all over that country. They're in several different venues all at the one time. You have that central hub there, where you can host stuff from. You have a time difference too. So you know that your audience is going to be taking in your content in very different ways. And Peacock checked every single possible box. If you wanted to watch every morning with it on in the background, you had Gold Zone, and you were able to just kind of, do. I basically had Gold Zone on for the last 2 weeks straight, and had it on all day, and just was doing whatever work I had to do during the day with it on. The kids got way into it, which was, really speaks to how fun the Olympics are in general. It's funny, the 4x100 women's race was going on. Avery was watching it with me there, and I wish I would have taken video, but she's sitting there like as the 4x100 is running, and I believe we won that one. Yeah, we did. As we were running that one, yeah, that was the one where Sha'Carri like stared off to the side, right? As that's happening, Avery is like screaming at the TV, "Go Lakers! Go Lakers! Go!" And I'm like, you know what? I'm not going to correct her. She was just loving it, and when we won that one, she was just screaming, to high heavens, and she had never seen obviously any of that before. The last Olympics, she was maybe about 1 year old or so, and she loved it. I was just over the moon by Peacock and their presentation of the Olympics, and it also helped that if you're an American, your country represented you very, very well, right? I think we wound up tying China for most gold medals, and then won the overall medal count by 30 medals or something like that. We would have won the gold medal count had volleyball not completely whiffed out there. No gold medals for volleyball. Normally we do pretty well in those events. And specifically for us as Lakers fans, right? This is a Lakers lowdown episode. For us, we got to watch LeBron James win MVP, tournament MVP. I know there were some people who thought maybe Jokic should win, which I could kind of see, except that LeBron's team beat Jokic's team, and you can't be that valuable if you didn't win the tournament, I don't think. So LeBron wins tournament MVP. Anthony Davis, I thought in all but one game during those Olympics, and during the run up to the Olympics, I thought Anthony Davis was clearly the better player between him and Joel Embiid, and the games just always seemed to pick up as soon as AD got into the game. So, for Lakers fans, and then, in the gold medal game, you had LeBron and AD out there. They are 40% of the closing five of one of the most talented basketball teams ever assembled. You can make an argument that is the most talented basketball team ever assembled to this point in terms of where everybody was in their respective careers. And the Lakers were represented by, two guys who we know when, like, this is the frustrating thing, right? The larger sample size would indicate that the Lakers are mostly mediocre with LeBron James and Anthony Davis. Their regular season record of the LeBron AD era is way closer to 500 than it really should be. It's kind of embarrassing, frankly. But every single time those guys have even a somewhat logical team around them in a playoff setting, when they get to play longer minutes and when they get to impart their impact on the game, they tend to do really, really well in the postseason. And the 1 year, the bubble year in 2019, 2020, they had, I think, the best team around them that they have ever had, may ever have. They won a championship. And then before Anthony Davis got hurt that following year, they looked like they were getting ready to beat the crap out of a Phoenix Suns team that wound up making it all the way to the finals, right? And frankly, the Suns probably should have won the championship that year. So the Lakers were outplaying the Suns before AD got hurt. And then, after you weren't able to put a logical team around the Lakers when you have Russell Westbrook on it. So, when the Lakers finally traded him and gave Anthony Davis and gave LeBron James an even somewhat logical team, they got all the way to the Western Conference Finals and faced off against a team that just matches up really well with them and wound up winning the championship that year in the Denver Nuggets. And then they played that same Nuggets team the next season, hadn't made enough changes to their roster, and the result was losing in the first round. So, like, that's not, when you're going up against the same team basically as the year prior and don't do anything at the trade deadline to address very clear and obvious holes in your roster and your rotation, losing to that team in the first round just seems like how that's going to go. And we'll see what this team does this year, where they made, again, 0 changes basically to this roster, and we'll see what that looks like. But my takeaway from watching this Olympic run was, like, those guys, like, if I was a Warriors fan, I'd feel the same way, where, give Steph some help. Stop fucking around. Stop telling me that Pods is so important that you can't trade him for Lauri Markkanen. Stop telling me that Jonathan Kuminga, who Steve Kerr doesn't even like playing anyway, is so important that you can't trade him for Lauri Markkanen. Like, cut out the crap. Stop this 2 timeline nonsense, because if you're focused on doing 2 things well in the NBA, you're not doing either well enough. And if I was a Warriors fan, I'd be livid. Like, Steph Curry just had an insane run. He knocked down like 4 threes, I think, in the final 2 minutes. That last 3 is maybe the greatest shot I have ever seen. It's just way high up there. And, Lakers fans, I think, feel the same way, where they're looking at LeBron, they're looking at AD, and like, clearly those guys are 2 of the best players in the world. Just give them a decent chance. Stop telling me about the 2031 pick that you don't want to move. Stop telling me about 2033 or 2047 or whatever year that you keep on telling me is this important thing that you are keeping an eye on here moving forward. Stop it. Cut it out. So give those guys the kind of talent that they clearly deserve, and give them a real chance here over the last couple of years of the LeBron James era with the Lakers, or LeBron James's career overall. Give him a real chance to win a championship, because that LeBron that we saw in that tournament over the last couple of weeks, and that Anthony Davis that we saw in that tournament over the last couple of weeks, and frankly, the LeBron and AD that we saw last season, they are holding up their end of the bargain. You stop telling me how difficult the CBA is and figure it out, because those guys deserve more than the Lakers are giving them. All right, segueing awkwardly from there to a very different. That's interesting, Rod. That Ray Allen's shot is also great. That's a good one to bring up. Ray Allen's obviously the one that we're talking about here. Ray Allen for Miami knocks down that shot against San Antonio that I believe forced overtime or something like that. I'm kind of fuzzy on the details there, but that was a crazy one because Allen is like racing to the corner, gets his feet down, gets the pass, gets that shot into and out of his hands as quickly as he did, and still made it look like a Ray Allen jump shot, as pure as that was. That's a really, really good one. The difference here to me is that one, the difficulty of the shot. Steph was from further out. Above the break, which is a tougher angle for some players. For Curry, I don't think it matters. He had two guys on him, and it was a shot that basically sealed the Olympics. Like, that was it. Like, it was a 1-game sample size. France was playing way above their heads. They made a game of it when they probably should not have been able to. And Steph basically says, Finn, that's it. We are done here. What was it like? I don't know how to pronounce it, nuit, right, or something like that in French. Night. It was incredible. It was really, really cool. It was a great shot. There are other great shots that have been made over the course of NBA history or basketball's history, but for my money, that was one of, if not the coolest shot that I have ever seen. Again, segueing awkwardly to a guy who can also make really cool shots, D'Angelo Russell. I've been thinking about him a lot lately. And essentially, the crux of this situation with D'Lo, and by the way, fun event coming up for you guys later this week. I'm going to be doing a home and home with the Kamenetsky brothers over there at Locked On Lakers. They'll do an episode here, and I'll do an episode there. I know mine is going to be live. Theirs wasn't live the last time around. But look forward to that. But yeah, I'm looking forward to that. And the reason I mentioned them is because they have completely fairly made the point that the Lakers can't simply just move D'Angelo Russell's deal. They can't simply just get off of D'Lo's deal and move on. They do need to bring in not just NBA talent that would upgrade their roster, but also importantly, they would need to replace his creativity on the ball. And I think that's fair. That's a fair point to make. And with that in mind, and given the makeup of the roster, and given like the Lakers' own relationship with D'Angelo Russell, where like all offseason they have basically been trying to trade this guy. They were trying to trade him at the deadline. They don't want to be in the D'Angelo Russell business anymore. JJ Redick has still not mentioned D'Angelo Russell in any kind of a setting since being hired as head coach of the Lakers. They are done. That relationship is it's at that stage where, everybody sees them out in public and they're like, man, they just got to pull the plug. And the problem is that, because the Lakers need D'Angelo Russell's production, they are forced to kind of live with that kind of awkward relationship. And I think going into next year, I would like to start divesting from the D'Angelo Russell experience even before I eventually trade the guy. And I think I want to bring D'Angelo Russell off of the bench. I want to start Austin, and whether it's Gabe or Max that you start next to Austin, if you want Austin to be more of a shooting guard and you want a point of attack defender in Gabe out there, cool, you could do that. If you want Austin to be your kind of LeBron James point guard, where AD is also operating from a hub or as the hub of the offense, then I think you can get away with having Max out there to offer a little bit more athleticism, and a little bit more length on the perimeter there. So I'd be fine with that. And then you allow D'Lo to just kind of have his way with opposing bench lineups, and give him the keys to that second unit, whether you sub out LeBron James first, and then bring in D'Lo, or you sub out Austin first, and you bring in D'Lo to be able to get him. I still think D'Lo should probably play 25, 30 minutes a night. I still think that he can still be a big part of your rotation. But the problem that the Lakers are going to run into now that it looks like they're going to be going into the season with D'Angelo Russell, the problem they're going to run into is that when they trade him, they're going to have to completely rethink their rotation, their opening lineups, maybe even their closing lineups. And I just think if eventually you're going to trade this guy this season, and that's how the Lakers are basically approaching this year, I'm told. If that is the case, then you should make it as painless a band-aid to rip off as you can possibly make it, and I don't think you can do that. You're basically putting duct tape directly onto the skin if you're starting D'Lo and he's playing 30 plus minutes a night and he's closing games. Like if you're doing all of that, by the time you trade him, it's going to be super tough to figure out everything on the fly for any coach, let alone a rookie one. So I think that, with going into next year, as they're designing out what the team is going to look like, I think D'Lo should be a part of the second unit. You can still play him some alongside Austin. You can still play him some alongside LeBron, and obviously alongside Anthony Davis. But I think, you need to make it as painless as possible whenever that time comes that you're trading him, to make whatever upgrade that you need to make. And look, like the thing with Austin, and at some point Austin is going to be the next player that I do the season re-preview thing with. The thing with Austin is that, like, to this point in his career, I don't think the Lakers know enough about him. They know he's a gamer. They know, like, they love him as a guy, but I don't think they know what position he plays. I don't think they know what type of player you need to play next to him. I don't think they know, like, they just, he's too far into a season, and there is still too much that is unknown about him. And I think you kind of just have to throw him into the deep end here, make him your point guard on opening night, and see if he can figure it out. And I know last year it didn't look that great. I would argue that it didn't look that great because he was coming off of FIBA play. This year, that isn't a thing. I would like to see him be the opening night point guard. I would like him to play 30, 35 minutes a night, in that range. And that doesn't mean that every minute that he's on the court, he has to be the point guard. And also, by the way, he's going to be the point guard in the way that, guys can be a point guard while LeBron is also on the court and while you're also having Anthony Davis operate as your hub. I just think, like, I made this point in the lounge Slack, and Raj's pushback was, that there isn't enough volume 3-point shooting on that roster. There isn't enough offense necessarily on that roster. And I'm like, you have LeBron, you have Anthony Davis, you're probably going to be starting Rui, you have Austin Reeves. Like, what are we doing here? Like, that team that lineup doesn't need D'Angelo Russell's offense. It shouldn't. Give me a guy in Max who can, who can defend and also knock down threes. Give me a guy like Gabe. If you don't think Austin Reeves is a point guard, which, Miles, apparently my son, is messaging me from his crib saying that Reeves is not a point guard, man, stop it. That's pretty incredible that a 1-year-old, I know he's almost 2, but he's able to comment on a YouTube video live. Look, if you don't think Reeves is a point guard, fine, then you got to start Gabe. But I think the more that they, lean on and rely on D'Angelo Russell, the tougher it makes him to trade him. And like essentially the problem that the Lakers keep on running into when they are trying to trade D'Angelo Russell is that they need Russell a lot more than the rest of the league needs or is interested in D'Angelo Russell. And that makes it really complicated in trying to figure out what you bring back for the guy. And I think if you bring him off of your bench and you start the season by relying on him less than you did last year, it makes it that much easier, and it honestly gives you a little bit more leverage in those talks to be able to move D'Angelo Russell. And my last point on this, and I'm this is going to be, you know how like every offseason or every season I have that annoying point that you guys just keep on yelling at me to stop bringing it up. I think this is going to be that point. I apologize in advance, but my last point on this is that the Lakers want to carry themselves as one of those franchises that has a culture, right? Like the Miami Heat, right? On their jerseys last year said Heat culture, and then they had that stupid little sentence in the middle of their paint that said whatever it was that said. Um, I if if the Lakers really believe in their culture or believe that they can build that kind of culture, it needs to start with somebody like D'Angelo Russell, who you don't even really care about anyway. Like, it, all right, D'Lo, here's where you tell us what you're about. You want to like this is the other thing too, is that I think sixth man is the kind of role that D'Lo is gonna have to eventually buy into if he ever wants to be on a championship level team. Sometimes he closes games if he's playing really well. Sometimes he doesn't, and he doesn't start because his defense is just kind of that tough to accept. So, like, all right, D'Lo, if you're really invested in being a Laker here moving forward, you're going to come off of the bench, and how well you accept that role is going to indicate to us whether or not we should continue to extend this relationship between you and us. And if you mope, cool. As soon as we can, we will get you out of here, and we will find somebody who is willing to do whatever it takes to win, because that is the point here. It should be the point. I understand somebody like D'Angelo Russell being stubborn and believing that he is a starter, because in terms of just raw talent, I probably agree with him. But the problem is it's not just about talent. Like we just saw this with Team USA, where Derek White had a real role on that team. Drew Holiday wasn't the most talented player, but clearly needed to be out there in key moments. Fit matters, buy-in matters, roles matter. And I think for D'Angelo Russell, it's come time at this point in his career where he needs to be able to prove to the Lakers and to the rest of the league that he is willing to do whatever it takes to uh, win, to buy into culture. And this would be one of those moments where if he is willing to do this and he does buy into that, awesome. The Lakers are a better team. If he isn't willing to do that, awesome. He's going to Orlando or something like that. All right, let's go ahead. I spent a little bit more time on that than I planned on it. Fortunately, well, I guess unfortunately, because this is I those iTunes comments and questions really do help. But yeah, I guess for the sake of spacing on this show, we did not get any iTunes questions. We do have a few from Twitter, from people who are subscribed to the show, so I will be able to answer those. We do, however, have a comment here from Amon Brar for $20. Wow, thank you, Amon. Which means I get to play this. All right, so the comment here from Amon is there's been a lot of talk of running it back, but no mention of D'Lo in any interviews, etc. Knowing the awkwardness of him coming into camp, any urgency to find a D'Lo trade, a chance D'Lo accepts a role without making it awkward. Funny that this is the comment coming off of that last segment. So as far as like what they're doing or still trying to do to bring him in, and how they're considering him, how JJ feels about him, all of that stuff. They still, like, if they could, if this was 2K, the Lakers would have turned off. They would have, whether you have to turn it off or turn it on, but turning on that ability to just force a team to make a trade, they would have turned that option on, and they would have sent D'Lo somewhere this summer. Like, if they could have done it, they would have done it. And I do still, based off of the conversations I've had all summer, still believe that D'Lo is, the Lakers are very still focused on trying to get him out of there. There's just there's just too much. There's too many questions about his fit with Austin and the ceiling that an Austin and D'Lo backcourt has. They are not good enough defensively. Neither of them can break down the opposing defense without the help of a pick and roll or a dribble handoff. And it's tough when you don't have anybody with that, like, downhill ability in your backcourt. Um, Both of those guys are much more like step back type shooters than like go at you type scorers. And I, it's kind of an awkward fit. That when it's looking good, they look really effing good, right? Because chances are they're both knocking down threes. They're both very good passers and facilitators. And offensively, that is a very capable tandem. But when you consider everything that you need from a backcourt that is going to be opening and potentially closing games, there are just too many boxes left unchecked by D'Angelo Russell and Austin Reeves. And they don't want to trade Austin. They aren't going to trade Austin unless like Steph becomes available or something crazy. So, the obvious step that you need to make is turning D'Lo into either a player who fits better in the backcourt with Austin, or a more two-way type wing, or a big. The Lakers have also looked into trying to bring in a big who can bolster lineups when Anthony Davis is sitting, and also ideally would be able to play next to Anthony Davis. They kick the tires, and actually it's more than kick the tires. They had conversations with the Magic about Wendell Carter Jr. that was reported on, and I can confirm it. Those conversations got pretty far compared to the rest of the conversations that they had over the course of the summer. And they will probably be revisited over the course of the year because Orlando has a somewhat crowded front court, especially if Jonathan Isaac is going to be healthier this year. They do still have some holes offensively in the backcourt, so they could theoretically benefit from having D'Lo out there. There's a potential deal, or there's at least like the outline of a deal there, I think, between Orlando and D'Angelo Russell. Brooklyn is also a team that the Lakers had. Those talks weren't as productive with Brooklyn as they were, neither talks were all that productive, right? Because D'Angelo Russell is still a Laker. But those talks were, in terms of like what got closest, without anything getting like particularly close, it was probably Wendell, then it was probably Kuz, then it was probably those conversations with the Nets, and then it was probably Portland, where like they just those negotiations just haven't been very productive. And when in Brooklyn, right, the Lakers like those wings that they have there. In Washington, they would like to be able to get Kuz. And if that is what you wind up doing, then you need to go out and probably, re-bolster that backcourt, in which case, like Markelle Fultz is still out there somewhere. I'd be interested. I saw Eric Pincus mention him That was interesting, and that's certainly a name that I have had circled the longer that we have gone on in this offseason. It's kind of crazy. He's still out there. I know that he's had a really bumpy career and all of that stuff, but he gets after it defensively, and the Lakers could really use that type of an athlete, especially defensively, even given the shooting concerns. But yeah, I think with D'Lo, I think it's right now it's very much a kind of grin and bear it type of situation. But I think the way that you make the best of this situation is you really find out what he's about, and you have a conversation with him, and you say to him, "Hey, this is what we're thinking about doing with you next year. Um, Whether or not you accept this role is going to go a long way in our interest in keeping you around. And look, like it might just be that like he could accept that role, he could do well in it, and the Lakers could still turn around and trade him because they may need somebody for their opening and closing lineups more than they need somebody with that second unit or to handle those second unit minutes. Regardless of what that looks like, and regardless of where this ends up, and when that relationship ends, it's just kind of one of those awkward things that everybody is just trying to make the best of right now. All right, let's go to Twitter, where we have several of you guys asking questions with proof of subscribing to the show. I appreciate that quite a bit. All right, let's start with the first question I got. This is from Lakers Supply. Have you heard anything in particular about roles for certain guys outside of AD as the hub, and Max telling Jovan that JJ plans to use him as a key rotation guy this season? Like, what can we expect in detail to see with AD and others? Well, LeBron's role, I think, is pretty straightforward. I think we know what that probably looks like. I'm told that, and have been told all summer, that JJ is really looking forward to coaching Reeves, and Reeves is really looking forward to being coached by Redick. So I would take that to mean that, and especially given the kinds of trades that the Lakers were in on this year, I do tend to think that Redick sees Reeves. He's not your typical point guard. But I think Redick sees Reeves as a LeBron point guard, where LeBron is going to have the ball a ton, and then you need a secondary creator who can also knock down shots in catch and shoot situations, and I think that's kind of how the Lakers see him. So I think Reeves is probably going to play 32 plus minutes a night this year, and will be a big part of the Lakers' identity this year. So I think his role is pretty written in permanent ink. Outside of that, it gets tricky, right? I think Rui is somebody that the Lakers are looking to really see if he can take the next step forward in his career. He needs to get better defensively. He needs to get more consistent defensively, and I think the Lakers are really going to be focused on trying to get that out of him. And if they are able to do that, then it makes it that much easier to focus on what other needs you need to address in the trade market. Jared Vanderbilt and Gabe Vincent, right? I think both of those guys are going to have significantly bigger impacts on this season than they had last year. The tough thing, and there are a few more questions here about Redick. The tough thing with Redick is, like, yeah, you could listen to his podcast and you can just kind of see how he views the game, and see how he, like, you could look back on how he played the game and which coaches he had in the past, and you can try to combine all of that to try to figure out what his identity is going to be as a coach. And it's tough to do that because there's no way to definitively say any of that. There's no way to definitively say, like, all right, this is the system that he's definitely going to run, or he has run in the past as a coach. I didn't go back and find that fifth grade footage to see what kind of offense they were running then, or what kind of defenses they were running then. So all of this is very theoretical right now. We didn't even see JJ. not only did we not see JJ coach the summer league team, which I thought was a big mistake, but then the Lakers turned around and fired the guy who did coach the summer league. So we aren't able to get anything from that. It was just a big, giant wasted experience for basically everybody involved there, which, awesome, Lakers organization. That's definitely what you want to do, is waste entire summers. So yeah, there's just no way to know. We don't know. We cannot know right now what JJ is going to be looking to do, and that makes me very nervous, obviously. Uh, LAL Prime writes, with Bronny likely to spend most of the season in the G League, is it realistic to think that the Lakers will create history by having Bronny play with LeBron fairly early into the season? Like, try to get out of the way kind of thing? Maybe. I don't know. I think the Lakers have to make it look like he actually earned this opportunity on his own more than they have to this point. And if you basically just like throw him into an NBA game for the point of like, for the purpose of like, all right, see, he played with his dad, and then go to the G League, like that just doesn't, I think that would be kind of an ugly look, right? It would just make him look even more like a PR stunt than anything. So I think they like, the way that I would do this, the way that I would handle Bronny here, because from what I saw in Vegas, yeah, he improved, but he is still very much not an NBA player right now. So I would have him work in the G League. You're going to have injuries over the course of the year, so that's going to make it so that he can get more of an opportunity a little bit later. That he's going to improve over the course of the year, because we just saw him improve over the course of his time in Vegas. So, like, if you basically have him work in the G League, and you send him down there as much as you can, and he gets as many minutes and reps down there as he can, then by the time you do play him, it's at least explicable in other ways beyond LeBron wanted to play with his son. And that to me is like, my priority is winning basketball games. My priority is never going to be making sure that Bronny gets to play with LeBron. I just don't care about that at all. The Lakers don't have the margin for error to be able to care about that. They are very much a middle of the pack Western Conference team, and in this Western Conference, you can go from middle of the pack to bottom of the pack very fucking quickly. And I just don't have the patience or the interest in making sure that LeBron and Bronny get that moment early enough in the season, and then you can come back to it later. No, develop Bronny, let him work down there, and then whenever it is he does make his Lakers debut, you can point to this, and this is why he is actually playing here, rather than this is why we all know he is playing here. And that is a very big and important difference. Lakers fan BDA writes, what's the dynamic with Joey and Jesse Buss working under Pelinka while they're also part of ownership? At what point do you see the younger Bus Bros taking on larger roles and running basketball ops? Could Ryan West come back to the organization if Pelinka leaves? I think the Ryan West stuff is pretty much done. Like, he saw how the Lakers treated his dad, not just in life, but also in death. Like, I still maintain that what the Lakers did or didn't do when Jerry West died is one of the most disrespectful things I have ever seen an organization do, ever. That dude, like, Pete was just on the show last week, right? And he put together a great video explaining how Jerry West saved the Lakers in the 90s. Jerry West is probably the most critical Laker ever when you're telling the story of the Lakers. Not just as a player, obviously, but also as an executive, as a presence in the organization in various roles. He is just like, I don't know if anybody, like it's Jerry West, then it's probably Dr. Buss, and then from there it's probably Magic, and then Kobe, or you could flip those guys in some order. And like it's just like what the Lakers did to Jerry West, to this day. You guys can see me struggling to talk about it without just ranting and raving. And Ryan saw that, and I think that probably was the final nail in the coffin of that relationship. I also, by the way, like I would like to see the Lakers branch out, go out and like actually like cast a wide net and add to your basketball operations ranks with people who are not like somebody's son. Like go out and hire basketball people. Not to say Ryan isn't basketball people, but like go out and get some people who come from different backgrounds. Like we saw their war room on draft night when they called Bronny. It's like all white guys. It's like all white guys who are all like you could trace back to the Lakers, by way of one of their friendships or who their dad was. And it's like, we can't keep doing this. Like, please diversify just a little bit. Fill out your front office with people who come from different backgrounds, because the whole point of diversity is, and I'm not saying this like, like diversity hires or anything like that. You need more diversity in terms of experiences and ideas, so that like, you're more productive than the Lakers have been the last few years. You're more creative than the Lakers have been the last couple of years. And like now as far as like the Bus Bros, I think I had thought that this would be the year that Jesse would actually get promoted to GM under Rob Pelinka. I think so. The way that I basically have heard it is essentially the Lakers have, right, all of these different departments that are focused on this, these various things. They compile a bunch of information and they basically put together a menu for Rob Pelinka. And then he looks at that menu and he figures out what he prefers in it. And then he takes that menu and he shows it to Jeannie and to Kurt and to Linda and to Tim Harris. And like at the top of the, and Jesse and Joey Buss are much more part of that, the part of the organization that compiles data and information more so than they are like in on those decisions or directions at a macro level when those decisions are being made. Now I would imagine that's going to change. Like it has to change sometime soon. I would imagine those guys have been waiting their turn for a while, and it's not like Pelinka has done such a great job that he should inarguably continue to hold it. So I think that is something that we could probably look forward to fairly soon. But then also, like if the Lakers, if the Buss family ever does sell enough basically ownership points to Guggenheim, like we saw it basically, or we thought, well, the Mavericks tried to make it look like Mark Cuban was still kind of the final decision maker after that purchase. And that, we came to find out that that's not quite right, which is what everybody thought when an owner sells a team, whoever is the majority owner is going to have final say. That is just how it goes. That is basically how it has to be contractually written in professional sports. And but all that said, if the Buss family negotiates a buyout with Guggenheim to where they would switch spots, and Guggenheim would become the more majority owners, and the Bus family would retain minority ownership. One of the potential stipulations of that sale or um, uh, transaction could be that Jesse and Joey would maintain some standing in the organization and would finally get like a bite at the apple as, you know, general manager and vice president of basketball operations or something like that. And now look, Guggenheim, that's not how they operate. We saw how Guggenheim operates. We have seen it with the Dodgers, and that is how I would prefer my ownership to operate, where they cast a wide net and went out and got Andrew Friedman, and they cast a wide net and went out and got Dave Roberts, and they invested a ton of money into the minor league system and into their front office. Remember that first iteration of the front office was Andrew Friedman, Farhan Zaidi, and the guy Alex Anthopoulos, who they had gotten from Toronto, who would eventually go to Atlanta and has been the key figure in that front office as Atlanta has put together the rosters that they have put together. And that it was insane watching that much talent in the front office get compiled. I'd frankly never really seen anything like it. And yeah, like Lakers fans who are particularly stubborn are going to point out, well, the Lakers and Dodgers have the same number of championships over the last however many years, and that's fine. But it is nice that, like, on any given night, given the way that the MLB schedule is, I can turn on a Dodgers game, and far more often than not, they are going to win they are going to win the baseball game that I have on my TV. And when you compare sample sizes between what the Dodgers have done under Andrew Friedman and what the Lakers have done since basically Dr. Bus was not able to run stuff anymore, it's not even a comparison. The Dodgers are just a far better run organization. That's how it normally goes with nepo babies. Like that's there are just so many examples of great businesses or entities that get handed off to the kid who always knew they were going to get it handed to them, and that kid is not able to fill in the shoes of the parent that built that great business. And unfortunately, to this point, Jim wasn't able to fill in Dr. Bus's shoes, and Jeannie has also struggled to do so. And we'll see what it looks like with Jesse and Joey. But even there, it's like I think it'd be cool. It would be kind of sad that the only two guys who have actually put in the time to learn the basketball side of this stuff and appear to be competent. It would be kind of cruel that those would be the only Bus siblings we never get to see potentially actually do this. But life ain't fair sometimes. I would, if I had my choice, as much as it is as nice as it would be to potentially see Jesse and Joey get a bite at this apple, I care a lot more about like the Lakers operating in the way that the Dodgers do. I'm just going to be honest. I prefer how the Dodgers are run to how the Lakers are, and I will always prefer how the Dodgers are run right now compared to how the Lakers are run. At HTMPSTR, do you know HT Hamster? I don't know. Do you know what type of offense JJ will run? Last year it was 5 out. Hopefully there will be more motion. So I think here you kind of have to look at Scott Brooks's experience. And I think that will help kind of clarify some of what the Lakers are going to be running. I don't think the Lakers should completely get rid of 5 out. I think it should be a part of their offensive diet. I also was frustrated with how much of that they were doing last year. But I do think that like it's the direction the basketball is going in. If AD is able to shoot next year, then it really makes sense to go in that direction. But we also know that JJ Redick was a motion shooter, and you know that he's going to want that to be part of the offense. They drafted a motion shooter in Dalton Connect, and we heard Max Christie tell Jovan that he will be doing some motion shooting this year too. I think if AD is operating as your central hub, preferably at the high post, then you have everybody kind of like moving around him. And then it's a LeBron James team. And so you're going to have elements of the LeBron James offense. And I think, again, as I said earlier, there's no way to definitely know what that is going to look like. But I think I have a decent set of theories on it. And I think that's what it would probably look like. Reasonable this is at JR Smith Range. Reasonable expectations for Reeves this year, and what does he need to improve on from last year? Thanks, and yay, JHS is healthy. So I would say that expectation, like if the Lakers are going to be good next year, Austin Reeves needs to be quite a bit better than he was from start to finish last season. He needs to shoot more threes this year. I think he shot like 4.5 or so per game last year. I think that number needs to jump way up, almost into like the 7 or 8 range. I want him to be a volume shooter. I want him to, like, I want the Lakers to throw him in the deep end. I want him to be, again, he's not going to play the typical point guard position because LeBron is going to be out there with him. And I don't think you want a typical point guard out there with LeBron. So I think like shit on this Team USA run, LeBron was a point guard again. Like you had Steph out there, but Steph isn't your typical point guard either. Just do it again. Like make LeBron the at least the sometimes point guard. But anyway, I think you have to go into the year. As I said earlier, when I was talking about D'Angelo Russell, I want Austin to be the point guard. And I want him to have a more defensive presence next to him. So like I would prefer it be Max Christie. So that's what we need to see from Austin there. He needs to be like, I know he continues to try defensively, but last year I thought he took a pretty noticeable step back defensively. I think part of that is that he was out there with D'Angelo Russell. I think it's very difficult to defend when you have the physical limitations that Austin does and your backcourt mate is D'Angelo Russell. So I would like to see, I'd like to see Max out there guarding the other team's best perimeter player. And then I would like to see Austin out there, being the kind of team defender that I think he's a significantly better team defender than he is an individual defender. And I think that has a lot to do with his basketball IQ and the physical limitations that he has. Essentially, I just called him white. Let's be honest. That's essentially what I just said there. And I think, what we need to see from Austin, and there's going to be a whole Austin episode here coming soon. But what you need to see from Austin is like, he needs to be either your third best player or your fourth best player, and be one of the best third or fourth best players in the league if the Lakers really want to take a step forward next year. And there's a lot that goes into that. It's really high expectations. There's a lot riding on Austin. But if you're going to hold on to Austin and not trade him for DeJounte Murray, or like anytime teams asked for Austin, the Lakers essentially hang up the phone. So if you're going to treat Austin like that, then Austin better be freaking good, period. And that's, I think that's a fair expectation given what the Lakers haven't been willing to do with Austin on the trade market. All right. I'm going to look through here. We're 54 minutes in, but I'm going to see if we have any questions here. All right, so I see it's basically people arguing over Jeremy Grant, which, by the way, like I do like. I prefer that you guys hit the like button as you're arguing over about Jeremy Grant in the comments and stuff like that. We need to bring those like numbers up. But I do like that. Like there's a community here that is willing to hop on here at 7:30 on a Sunday night and yell at each other about Jeremy Grant. Like man, sports fandom is just hilarious. It is a great, funny thing that can be really cool and it's a sense of community and we're building on that. But I'm going to go ahead and end things there, as that was the last question I got from people who have proof of being subscribed to the show. And we will go ahead and come back on Tuesday with a home and home with the Kamenetsky brothers of Locked On Lakers. Always funny to I answered Armand's $20 super chat. It was this one. It was right after I talked about D'Lo. But yeah, go ahead though, everybody. Enjoy the rest of your Sunday nights, and until Tuesday, have a great rest of your next couple days. Make somebody else's, and I will talk to you then.